everyone, and welcome to today's episode. We're going to be talking about Brighter Than Before by Courtney Walsh. So, this one, it's a contemporary romance and it's a rom-com and it's a low spice romance that fits within the clean and wholesome category, and it's also a standalone story. So, why did I want to read this one? Well, I've been a fan of Courtney's for quite a few years now, and I've read a number of her books, including the Happy Life of Isadora Bentley, and you can find recommendations for the books I've read from Courtney on my blog at my website at narelleatkins.com. And I've also recorded a couple of episodes on Courtney's books here at Fangirling. So you can look up episode 19, which is Everything's Coming Up Rosie is the book I talked about. And you can also look up episode 46 where I talked about My Merry Mistake. So I'm going to add my usual disclaimer and say many thanks to the publisher who provided an advance reader copy, and all the opinions that I express in this episode are completely my own. So let's talk about the book. Brighter Than Before by Courtney Walsh is set in Colorado and also in Chicago. And we have a number of romance and women's fiction tropes in this book. So this one is a rom-com that has some laugh out loud funny moments in it. It's also a second chances story. We have a lovely friends to more romance in the book. We also have midlife main characters who are in their 40s, and our leading lady who's really on a journey of healing and self-discovery in the story. And she's recovering from a very nasty divorce. And we have her starting over in a brand new city. We've got online dating and dating mishaps in the story. And we've also got found family themes, and the story explores the importance of female friendships and other friendships in the story as well. So I'm going to start by sharing the first two lines, and I'm sharing the second line because it really does set up what's going on in these opening chapters back in Denver, in Colorado. It was the mac and cheese that brought me here. I didn't know that mac and cheese would result in impulsive lunacy. So, this is from chapter one, and impulsive lunacy is a very good description for what actually happens in these opening chapters, and I'll get to that in a minute. So, I'm going to introduce you to Claire, who's our leading lady. So, she's 46 years old. She's recently divorced a year ago, pretty much to the day when chapter one starts, or very close. Something major happened in her life that blew her marriage up. So, she's recently divorced and she's still unpacking all of the trauma of what's happened. And so she was married for 23 years to the guy she was dating in college, and now she's in a very different place. So she's a wife and a mum, but her husband was very wealthy, so she didn't have to work. And he had her busy doing things for him and also doing charity events and all that kind of stuff. And so she spent a fair bit of time at the country club with her friends who are no longer her friends. So she receives alimony from her ex-husband. She's still living in their marital home where they raise their 23-year-old daughter. And baking is her thing. That's her favorite thing to do, and that's how she manages stress. And in the last 12 months, she has been doing a lot of baking. So at the start of the story, she is probably a hot mess, would be quite an accurate description for where Claire's at. And it's awful. It's really, the beginning of this book's actually quite hard to read because Claire has been shunned by everyone in her old life. She's been shunned by her friends who were fake friends who walked away from her and sided with her husband. Her mother-in-law has even blamed her for her husband cheating. Apparently, Claire's the reason that he cheated, and that's a perfectly reasonable explanation. And yeah, her mother-in-law's really harsh and an absolute piece of work, but she's not the only person that's really harsh. And her husband is still with the woman he was cheating with and has no real regard for Claire and her feelings. And her daughter's off in the UK studying, and I don't blame her daughter for running away because her parents, the whole situation has just been awful. And Claire's feeling alone, she's feeling abandoned, and she's feeling replaced because this new woman in her former husband's life has basically just stepped into her shoes and is living the life she used to live. So it's quite a heartbreaking start to this story. And Claire also has history of abandonment issues. Her mum was a very complicated person and she was raised by her grandparents, and there's a whole lot of history that goes with that. And so the last 12 months have just been really sad and just and traumatic and horrible, and all this change has happened, and it's been change that she didn't ask for. It was change that her husband's choices inflicted on her, and then everyone else who piled on. And for whatever reason, because he's the wealthy one from the wealthy family, he's the one that gets everyone's support, and she basically gets kicked to the curb, even though she's not the one who cheated. It's just awful. So she does something in the opening chapters, if we get back to those opening lines, that's seriously impulsive. It's ridiculous, it's embarrassing. She looks back and thinks, how could I be so stupid and do this? So when you read it, it's cringy, but at the same time, it's hilarious because it is a funny situation, but it's just heartbreaking. And sadly, this kind of thing is true to life. Like, I know in my own life, I've watched people deal with and helped people that I know with some really difficult marriage breakups. And people can get triggered to do some really crazy things. And even though it looks completely crazy what's happening, it sadly is true to life because when you push people too far, they will do ridiculous things. And so Claire has spent 2 decades where she's been controlled, firstly by her husband, secondly by her mother-in-law, and she's having to live the life everyone else expects her to live and everyone else wants her to live rather than what she wants to do. And she's been spending the last 12 months really unpacking the emotional abuse that she experienced in her husband's toxic family system. And so this awful event, this embarrassing, horrible event, is a trigger for her to change. It's a real catalyst. And so there are 6 things. She makes a list at the beginning, and her list does grow, but she starts with 6 things that she wants to change in her life. And the first one is she wants a job and career that she'll love. The second thing she wants is real friends, as opposed to the fake friends that have dumped her the moment she does something embarrassing and silly. She's also, the third thing she wants is she's looking to move to a new city, and Chicago has been where she's always dreamed of living from when she was younger because she was raised in Illinois in a small town. She'd like to have a dog. That was her fourth thing on the list. Her fifth thing on the list is to figure out who she is, and she's no, and she's more than well, she's no longer a wife because that role got taken off her and she was replaced. And she's a mum, but her daughter's 23 and overseas and living her own life. So Claire really wants to work out who she is as a single woman. And she also importantly wants a place to belong. So I'm going to introduce you to Miles now. So he's in Chicago, and like Claire, he's in his 40s. He's also divorced and has adult daughters. He's a business owner and landscape architect. And he's also Claire's neighbor, where she rents an apartment in the city in one of the Chicago suburbs. He's her neighbor in one of the other apartments. And so the meet cute between these two, it is, oh my goodness, it is awkward, embarrassing, ridiculous. Claire's really not wearing enough clothing, which doesn't help the situation either. And it has all those rom-com expectations that we want to see, like all those funny sitcom things are going on in this particular scene. It's very, very memorable. And so he's very sweet, Miles is, he with what actually happens because she gets herself into a very embarrassing situation and they become friends. And at the start, Claire makes a few false assumptions about Miles, which do come back to bite her later. And it's interesting because this story is single point of view, so we don't actually go into Miles' head. We only have what Claire says about him. And so Miles ends up connecting quite early in the story with Claire's daughter in the UK. And Claire's daughter's set up a dating profile for her because she wants her mum to move on from her father, who she's not very happy with, and to actually find someone new and actually get out and explore the world. And so Miles and Claire's daughter manage her online dating account and set up dates, and there's quite a lot of hilarious things that happen with that. And Miles also tells Claire that he's not he doesn't ever want to remarry again. So that means that Claire puts him in the friend zone and goes off on dates. And as I said, there's a lot of mishaps and fun that happens with some of these dates. And so in this story, we have a lot of problems in terms of the romance. They've friend zoned each other, even though there's lots of sparks and attraction and things happening. So there's a lot of hurdles to overcome with their emotional baggage in terms of any possibility of romance. And Claire's really discovering who she is. She's finding her wings. She's, for the first time in a couple of decades, is actually making her own decisions and really starting to understand just how controlled she was by her former husband, who basically because he was selfish and entitled, everything was all about him, and she was married to him and in his life to serve his needs, and her needs were always secondary and were neglected. And so Claire's dealing with the challenges of being in a new city. She's starting over and is really got a clean slate, and she's trying to work out what she wants to do with her life. And going back to those list of six things I talked about earlier. And Miles has his own emotional baggage that he'll have to unpack and deal with in the story as well. So I absolutely love this story. It was a rom-com with depth, and it was funny, and it was laugh out loud funny at times and ridiculous, but it also had some poignant moments. But it was a really fun and sweet friends to more romance that goes through the story. I just love journeying with Miles and with Claire and just watching their friendship turn into something more and seeing Claire discover who she is and work out what she wants to do with her life. And I liked Claire's daughter. She was fun, and I totally understood why she has gone to the UK to study. If I was her, with what had gone on with her parents, I'd be running away to the UK as well and putting some space, particularly between her and her dad, because it's very hard for adult children when these things happen, when particularly this situation, because it was very clear to anyone looking from the outside with any objectivity that Claire was very wronged by not just her former husband, but also the in-laws as well, who are obviously Claire's daughter's grandparents. So there's complications that would go with that. And so the quirky side characters and the neighbors in this apartment complex are so fun, and the people we meet. And Miles really is the hunky hero with a heart of gold. And as I said, we don't hear what he thinks because it's all in Claire's point of view, but it was so fun journeying with him in the story with Claire. And I loved how when she first arrives, they have this terribly embarrassing moment, this meet cute, that really could have sent them scurrying to their apartments, never talking to each other again. But they get past that. And I loved how Miles really helps her to settle into the city and to work out different options and for her to start discovering what she really wants. He really helped her on that journey. And in the story, there's strong found family themes. And I just loved how we saw the friendships develop and the friendships that Claire was really seeking that were based on honesty with people that she could trust who would be there for her if something goes wrong, unlike those fake friends she had back in Denver who the first moment she does something embarrassing, they're totally disowning her and siding with her husband. It was just horrible where she came from. So my favorite book quote in the story is this one. Nothing about your life is going to change if you don't change it. So this is actually something that Claire's therapist said to her before the story starts that Claire's thinking about. And it really is the catalyst to stop Claire from wallowing in the grief of losing her marriage and the loss, what that loss actually meant to her, and to get her out of her self-pity and the rejection, the sting of rejection that she's still feeling, and really getting her to take responsibility for her life. And so once she takes responsibility for her life, she can start making changes and move forward and actually get over the horrible things that have happened to her in the past. And so the story really has a lot of hope. Hope is a very strong theme, and how it's never too late to start over, and the healing journey after a divorce or any kind of major relationship breakdown is really difficult. And we really see how Claire heals in the story, and also Miles is on a healing journey for different reasons with her as well. And the story explores trust issues and the importance of having people in your life that are honest and tell you the truth and actually care about you and your well-being and aren't just using you. We also have second chances. We have our characters who are looking at overcoming fears, and a lot of the things that Claire adds to her list are things that she's afraid of that she wants to conquer and do. And another theme that's explored is the importance of letting go of bitterness and moving to a place where you can actually forgive someone who's hurt you and realize that you need to forgive them to help you in your healing journey. And ultimately, the big question that both Miles and Claire are dealing with is, are they prepared to take a risk on love and see where love will take them? So it really was a very strong message of hope in the story. So, in terms of the impact on me, it was a fun story with these characters, and there were many laugh out loud moments in the story. So, lots of smiles. And then at the beginning, in particular, it was a bit heavier in those opening chapters, and there was some heartbreaking and poignant moments as we really see the trauma and devastation that Claire's experiencing at the beginning. And all of that did make me think. It made me think about how destructive and traumatic these selfish and entitled people can be in terms of how their behavior affects other people in their lives, and the dysfunctional family system that Claire was stuck in with her former husband. And also how the trauma from emotional abuse, particularly if there's past trauma that it triggers, can just cause so many problems for people. It's just heartbreaking, the stuff that Claire was dealing with. And it was interesting because at the start of the story, when all this went down, she was really blinded to her husband's faults. She didn't see just how selfish he was. She didn't understand how controlled she was until she left that environment and could look back on the situation. And so I really appreciated seeing Claire's character growth as she starts to have a, a more accurate and true to life understanding of what was actually going on in her marriage. And that really helped her to heal and to move forward and to have healthier boundaries and healthier relationships with the people that are in her life in Chicago. Because her emotional needs were they were just so neglected. And so it was wonderful to see her in a place where her emotional needs could be met by people that genuinely cared and loved her rather than people who pretended to love her and were just using her. So, in summary, I recommend Brighter Than Before to readers who like rom-coms with depth that will make you think, to readers who like second chances and friends to more romances, to readers who like midlife main characters in the romance, to readers who like stories where you've got the healing and self-discovery journey as a major part of the story, to readers who are interested in the Chicago setting and enjoy going to some of the touristy places in Chicago, which was really fun, and to readers who like found family themes in their stories that look at the importance of genuine friendships, and also stories that are full of hope and that you finish a story with a big smile on your face. Thanks for joining me today. Does Brighter Than Before sound like a book that you'd like to read? Have you read it? What did you think? You can let me know. If you're listening at the podcast, you can send me a text via a link at the show notes. If you're watching at YouTube, you can like the episode at YouTube, and you can also leave a comment at YouTube. And you can also email me, and you can do that at my website where I have a contact form, and you'll find that at narelleatkins.com. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, and you can do that at your favorite podcasting app, or you can subscribe at YouTube, and then you'll get a notification on when my next episode drops. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please share the link with a friend, especially a friend who likes reading rom-coms that have depth and have a bit of meat to them and contemporary romances, and also a reader who you think would enjoy reading Courtney's books. So thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.